mahalaga talaga ang pag-attend ng flag ceremony sapagkat ito ang magsisilbing tagapagmulat sa isang tao bilang Pilipino na hindi madali na makamtan natin yung ating kalayaan as simbolo ng ating bandila.
Ang islap ng watawat mo'y tagumpay na nasirinig. Ang bituin at araw na kailan pang may di magdidilim. Lupa ng
Sa sobrang dami po ng estudyante, hindi po lahat nakakover sa area po kasi maliit lang po yung space namin before.
piling mo. Aming ligaya na pag may mga api ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Ang pagiging isang mabuting anak ay natututunan natin sa ating tahanan. At ang ating pagiging isang mabuting mamamayang Pilipino ay nag-uugat sa ating mga paaralan. 2 buwan makalipas ang school turnover sa DepEd ng Taganito National High School, ating kamustahin ang lagay ng mga beneficiaries ng paaralan, ang mismong mga mag-aaral nito.
Ngayon po, mas maliwalas po siya, tapos mas plaster siya diri sa compared lagi sa una.
Masarap na po mag-aral sa bago naming classrooms ngayon dahil nga po sa isang silid-aralan po ay hindi na po kami gaano nagsisiksikan. At saka po kompleto na po lahat ng mga gamit sa aming paaralan. Kagaya lamang po sa mga reportings, meron na po kami mga projectors, mga teachers po nagpapagamit na po ng laptops, at saka sabi niya po na yung mainit, hindi na po kasi mainit kasi nga gaya ngayon sa isang silid-aralan, less 40 students na lang po yung pasok doon. So, hindi na po siya gaanong crowded. So, nasa estudyante na lang po yan kung paano nila pinapahalagahan ang mga gamit na binibigay sa amin po.
Mas ngayon kasi hindi na nagkokopyahan dahil ang lawak na, tapos pag mag-i-exam talagang malaki na ang space.
Epektibo po yung pagtuturo ngayon ng mga teachers sapagkat noon, ang paaralan namin ay blackboard lang yung nagpagitan ng ibang mga estudyante. Kaya rinig na rinig namin yung klase ng ibang section or ibang classroom. So hindi kami makapag-focus.
Hindi na masyadong naha-highlight yung mga guro na magtuturo sa amin kasi hindi na masyadong maingay kasi sapagkat maluwag na at saka may kanya-kanya na kaming silid-aralan dito sa school.
start. Okay. Wait, Let us start. Okay. Okay, ready na tayo. Chair, live. Okay. Okay. Hello everyone. Good afternoon. Magandang hapon po sa ating lahat, sa inyo lahat, wherever you are. I welcome everyone on behalf of the PPA board and members nationwide to another online edition of a PPA training program via Google Meet. Ito po ang pinaka-end time. If I'm not mistaken, this is the 6th online event or activity or seminar workshop or webinar, as we call it, under the PPI Nickel Asia Corporation Partnership. Of course, meron pa po kaming other events under other partners naman. So, we usually post our or announce our activities para lahat po. I mean, when I say lahat, some online events ng PPI are not just limited to PPI members, not just limited to journalists or media practitioners. Some slots are open to, or like this one, are open to academics, non-media sectors. Kaya itong seminar na to or itong special event namin, I call it special, I will bakit special siya? Ito ay nararapat para sa lahat. Hindi lang po ito para sa media practitioners, sa PPM members. Ito po ay isang plataforma para sa publiko, more importantly. Kaya itong edisyon na ito ng activity ng PPI ay very significant po para sa isang bansa na nakakaranas ng misinformation, malinformation, at ano pang bagay na hindi maganda na nasa social media. Of course, yung iba sa inyo are already too familiar with VERA files or familiar with the PPA as well. So I won't describe lengthily what PPA is all about. It's just a click away, it's Google away. It's www.fieldpressinstitute.net. And we also have another website for our COVID-19 chronicles or stories specifically devoted for stories by journalists written by journal outside of Metro Manila. Meaning ito po yung isang plataforma ng PPI, isang website na kung saan from March to the current month up to October or up to this year, the public gets to read lots and lots of stories about COVID-19 chronicles. So yun po, if you want to know more about PPI, it's just a click away. And nandun po yung programs namin. You get to know ano pa yung mga seminars na ginagawa ng PPI. And specifically for academics, if you want some materials for, let's say, for your tutorials or pwede nyo gamitin sa klase ninyo, you can use them. They can be accessed. They're all accessible for as long as you attribute the materials to PPI. Pwede nyo pong gamitin yan. Hindi po namin pinagdadamot yun. Binanggit ko kanina bakit importante itong, bakit special na edition ito ng online event ng PPI. We're doing this in collaboration with the Nickel Asia Corporation. Maraming salamat Nickel Asia. Binanggit ko na kanina. This is our 6th with them. Sila po ang sumusupport. We call them our principal partner. Even before the pandemic, when physical gatherings were allowed, ang dami po naming seminars and workshops na binibigay for our members, print, and for other media practitioners. At saka meron din kami binibigay na seminars for the campuses, mga academics, mga estudyante. So hopefully when things get better, at sabi nga natin, when things a little bit, normalize, hopefully by next year, we get to do the same tradition ginagawa namin nung wala pa yung pandemic. But now we've been embracing a different kind of platform or different kind of engagement with the public, not only with, as I said, hindi lang po engagement ito with media practitioners. Ito po ay engagement or engagement ng PPI sa ibang sektor pa ng lipunan. Pero madalas po kaming nagbibigay ng training para po sa members namin sa print. As I said, meron din kami para sa broadcast, FAMSLAS for broadcast. Meron din sa for bloggers, etc. etc. So sa madaling sabi, inclusive po ang mga seminars ng PPI. It just so happens that in some instances talagang nagiging exclusive lang siya for PPM members. But a lot of times open din naman siya for other non-media sectors. As I thank Nickel Asia Corporation, I also would like to invite everyone to join us again in another forums via whether it's Google Meet or Zoom. Welcome everyone, and I can see not so familiar faces, a lot of non-familiar faces, but unfamiliar faces. But we're so happy, we're so glad that you are able to join us today or this afternoon. At this point, I'd like to call somebody from the VERA Files. She's an editor there, but before joining VERA Files, she was with the Manila Times. She was columnist of the Manila Times, also at the helm of the Manila Times School of Journalism. At some point, she was training director of the Philippine Center for Investigative Journalism. Ngayon po ay nasa VERA Files na siya. She's one of the editors. She's a very good friend of mine. Please welcome everyone, Ita Valderrama.
Nako, Ariel. Ay, teka, wait. Hello? Can you hear me? Ariel?
Yes, loud and clear.
All right. On behalf of VERA Files, I'd like to thank Ariel, who is a very, very good friend, not only personally, but also of VERA Files, and the PPI team who has been working hard for this, and also to Mr. JB Bailon of Nickel Asia Corporation. Sayang lang, hindi siya nakaabot, ano? Anyway, mag-intro lang ako ng about VERA Files. Doon sa mga hindi familiar pa sa kung ano yung VERA Files. It's a non-stock, non-profit, independent media organization founded in March 2008 by courageous women journalists, si Ellen Tordesillas, Luz Rimban, Bumacru, si Jenny Santiago, Yvonne Chua, and Chit Estelia, who in 2011 died in a road crash. VERA is Latin for true. Its journalistic products are focused on investigative journalism. And it's also conducting training for journalists, educators, and students. And since 2016, it started fact-checking in view of the alarming spread of disinformation from various sources, particularly during the election season. VERA Files is the first Philippine fact-checking organization certified through the nonpartisan International Fact-Checking Network at Pointer. Because of this, it became a third-party fact-checking partner of Facebook, which aims, this started in 2018. This program aims to help combat what we are familiar with as fake news, which has been spreading on Facebook. It also has a fact-checking program with the National Endowment for Democracy, under which VERA Files tracks the false claims, flip-flops, misleading statements of public officials and figures, and debunks them with factual evidence. VERA Files monitors public pronouncements of public officials, press conferences, social media platforms, and reviews news stories, check the facts, and rate their accuracy. In addition to its regular fare of in-depth reports and commentaries, VERA Files has over the years pursued several specialized reporting projects supported by grants. Recently, it also is in partnership and part of the fact-checking program of Internews. And I know that Kat is here. So yan, may mga partnerships din. Other ongoing projects of VERA Files include the Road Safety Journalism Fellowship Program, which is supported by the World Health Organization Philippines and Bloomberg Philanthropy. Red Files by Internews, Earth Journalism Network. Our latest project, which we are launching today, is a 6-part fact-check online video tutorial kits in Filipino with subtitles in English and 2 of the most popular dialects spoken in the country, which are Cebuano and Ilocano. Its video is 3 to 5 minutes long. In the video, the trainer will guide the learners through visuals. This is not only for journalists, but also for students, educators, and even ordinary individuals who want to make sure that the information they get and share are accurate. VERA Files is honored to be given the opportunity to present the first of the series of the fact-checking tutorial video, which is Determining Red Flags in Social Media Accounts. Participants in this webinar will be the first to watch this outside of the VERA Files tab. Kier, can you please play the video? Ay, walang sounds.
At ako naman si Marinette.
Ako si Celine.
At ako naman si Marinette.
Araw-araw sa VERA Files, ginagalugad namin ang social media para hanapin at itama ang kumakalat na mis at disinformation.
Sa 6 na buwan simula ngayon, maglalabas kami ng 6 na video para turuan kayo kung paano nyo rin ito magagawa gamit ang inyong cellphone o computer.
Mga red flags sa social media account o page ang una nating tututukan. Sa loob ng 2 araw, nakakuha ng 4,000 comments itong Facebook post na naglabas ng aplikasyon para sa may gusto ng perang ayuda mula sa gobyerno. Peke ito, walang opisyal na Facebook page na magkasama ang Department of Labor and Employment o DOLE at Department of Social Welfare and Development o DSWD. Sabi pa ng DSWD, hindi sila nanghihingi ng personal na impormasyon sa social media. Ginagamit ng mga impostor na account gaya nito ang kredibilidad o kasikatan ng isang tao o institusyon para mas madali tayong maniwala sa impormasyong mali o nakapanliligaw. Minsan, para rin magparami ng likes at makakuha ng personal na impormasyon. Para malaman kung lehitimo ang isang social media account o page, sundin ang mga hakbang na ito. Hanapin ang verified badge sa pangalan ng account. Patunay ito na ang nagpapatakbo ng page o account ay ang tao o institusyon na nakapangalan. Walang blue check ang impostor. Ang tunay na DSWD, mayroon. Pero hindi lahat ng lehitimong account ay may verified badge, gaya nitong sa DOLE. Paano ito ngayon mache-check? Magpunta sa About tab, na kadalasan naglalaman ng deskripsyon ng tao o organisasyon, official website, at contact information na pwedeng tawagan o i-message. Kung wala o kulang-kulang ito, magduda ka na. Sa official website rin madalas makikita ang link sa tunay na social media page. Ang tunay na social media page, tama ang spelling at capitalization. Tingnan din kung may mga dagdag na salita sa pangalan ng account na hindi dapat. Pagdating sa followers, nakadududa rin kung ang isang institusyon o sikat na tao ay iilan lang ang followers. Pero linawin natin, hindi automatic na kapag marami ang followers ng isang account, ay credible ito o dapat agad paniwalaan. Taktika ng panloloko ng mga account ang magpa-like ng kanilang page. Tingnan rin ang page transparency tab sa Facebook para malaman kung kailan ginawa ang isang Facebook page. Kung ito ay bagong gawa, pero nakapangalan sa isang matagal nang naitatag na institusyon, magduda ka na. Dito nyo rin makikita kung nagpalit ito ng pangalan at layunin. Sa Facebook groups, makikita nyo ito sa group history ng About page. Maging mapagmatyag rin sa post mismo ng account o page. Minsan, ang mga litratong ginagamit ay kinuha mula sa ibang organisasyon gaya nito. Ngayong panahon ng pandemya, maging mas maingat sa mga posts na nakikita sa social media. Maraming nagsasamantala sa pagkakataong ito kung kailan marami sa ating mga kababayan ang naghahanap ng impormasyon. Gamitin ang tutorial na ito para malaman kung lehitimo o hindi ang isang social media account. Samahan niyo kami sa susunod na buwan para alamin kung ano ang mga bagay na pwedeng i-fact check. Abangan yan dito sa Pramis. Walang Lokohan.
We present the following topics. Sa November, ang topic ay verifiable or not, which should be out by November 15. Tapos, red flags in websites, December. Advanced searching using Google Advanced Search, January at reverse, and then yung reverse image searching, and finally, yung digital security to complete the package in February. And now, for the complete fact-checking process, I will turn you over to the head of VERA Files Facebook fact-check team, a reporter and editor of VERA Files since 2018, shortly after she graduated magna cum laude at the University of the Philippines. She was part of the research team behind the Pulitzer-winning story of Reuters on the 30s War on Drugs, where she had her apprentice at Reuters, apprenticeship. Without much ado, please welcome Miss Celine Isabella Samson, Chin for short.
Thank you very much, Ma'am Ita, for the introduction, and thank you, PPI, for having us. Before I start lang, can I confirm na okay naman po yung audio ko? Hello?
Okay sa akin, Chin.
Okay po.
Yes,
Salamat
po.
po. Okay.
Yes, very okay yung audio.
Okay
Perfect. Yeah.
Thanks po. Let me share my presentation now. Okay. Ayan po. Does everyone see my screen right now?
Yes, perfect.
Yes,
Okay.
very
so-
clear.
Okay. Thank you very much po. I will start now.
Okay.
So my presentation today, it's titled A Fact Checker's Life for Me. So is fact checking something that everybody can do? Let's find out. So let's get straight to it. What exactly is fact checking? So for us, this is how we define fact checking. Fact checking is the act of determining, it's basically determining if statements in a non-fictional text, such as speeches, Facebook posts, videos, memes, are true and correct. And it may be done before or after a text is published or aired. So fact checking, is it a new thing? No, it's not a new thing and it's not a revolution. Fact checking is an institution, meaning journalists have been doing it for a long time. Journalists do it before a copy is published to make sure there are no errors in their articles or in their reports. So that's what we mean by before. But the fact checking that we do and what I will teach you today is fact checking that comes after a text is published or aired. So, who fact checks? Is fact checking just for journalists? Sagutin na natin agad yung tanong ngayon. And the answer to that is no. Definitely not. So, hindi lang journalists ang nag-fact check. For example, let me tell you the story of these high school students from Kansas in the United States. So, in 2017, their school hired a new principal named Amy Robertson. And when they started researching about the credentials of this new principal, they found discrepancies. For one, when they researched Corlins University, which is the university where the new principal supposedly got her master's and doctorate degrees, the website did not work. We also found no evidence that it was an accredited university. So itong mga findings na to, this led to a several weeks long investigation na itong how many students na to? 2, 4, 6, 7 students. All these investigations, all this research, they came up with a report that would ultimately question the legitimacy of the principals, of the new principal's degrees and of her work as an educational consultant. So their report was published sometime in 2017 on a Friday. By Tuesday, the principal resigned. But pero hindi natin kailangan lumayo pa. Here in our country, journalism students from the University of the Philippines, Diliman, have their own fact-checking project called Fact Breakers, which you can find at factbreakers.org. So it's under the supervision of Professor Yvonne Chua from the UP Journalism Department, and she is also one of the founders of VERA Files. So the students, under the supervision of Ma'am Chua, fact-check a whole range of things, from social media posts to statements made by public figures. And this actually started as an activity in her journalism ethics class in 2016, and now it has it has turned into a full semester seminar course on fact-checking. In Hong Kong, a similar initiative was started in the University of Hong Kong called AniLab. So, bakit ba natin kailangan mag-fact check? For us, we have these 4 reasons why we need to fact check. It's a for us as verifiers, as journalists. So one, it's a journalistic tradition. It's a discipline of verification. It's accountability journalism. It's journalism, the public service. These 4 are very closely related together. And I've already explained earlier how journalists do verification before a text is published. But we also say accountability journalism. And what do we mean by that? For that, let me share with you this quote from PolitiFact, which is a fact-checking organization in the United States. And they actually won a Pulitzer for their fact-checking work in the 2009 elections in the US. So they said, words matter, what a politician says matters, what the government says matters, and when they make a promise or a claim, fact-checking journalists will check it out. So for us, we aren't here to find faults. Hindi tayo nagfa-fact check para mamintas. If a public official says truthful things, then he or she is doing his or her job. But when they lie, it matters to all of us. Why? Because these people are lawmakers, they are policy implementers. They decide where to spend our money. They craft our policies. And whatever they think or say will have an effect on the policies that we, the citizens, will benefit or suffer from. So it's important to keep those in power in check. But at VeriFiles, we don't just cover politicians. We cover public figures. So we cover a whole range of public figures, which can include current and former agency chiefs, actors, and even bloggers. Vloggers, as you can see, bloggers and vloggers, as you can see in these examples below. So we have fact-checked a former chair of the NCCA, Robin Padilla, and Pinoy Ako Blog, among others. Why do we fact-check these public figures? Because they are also people that can influence public opinion. Next, bakit pa natin kailangan mag-fact-check? Narinig niyo na ba? I'm sure narinig niyo na yung saying na may pakpak ang balita. Pero meron pang mas mabilis sa balita. Mga kasinungalingan at mga falsehood. And this has already been proven in a study published by the Massachusetts Institute of Technology in the US, where 3 scholars in 2018 found that false news travels faster than true stories, at least on Twitter. So they found that false stories are 70% more likely to be retweeted than true stories. Falsehoods were also retweeted 10 to 20 times faster than facts. Is this harmful? Yes, especially during a global health crisis like the one we're in now, so the COVID-19 pandemic. So, apart from the pandemic, we are also facing what the WHO calls an infodemic. And how do we define infodemic? It's basically an overabundance of information which can be a mix of true and false information. It can include, ito pa ang what the WHO described as an infodemic. It can include deliberate attempts to disseminate wrong information to undermine public health response and advance alternative agendas. So if you read this screen grab that I put here, you will see that the WHO also mentions mis and disinformation. So dito sa audience ngayon sa ating Google Meet call, familiar po ba tayo sa terms ng mis and disinformation? Okay, so they are both information disorders, but the difference between mis and disinformation is intent. So this is how disinformation is defined in a handbook made by UNESCO. Disinformation is defined in a handbook made by UNESCO regarding journalism, fake news or false news, and disinformation. So disinformation is information that is false and deliberately created to harm a person, social group, organization, or country. While misinformation is information that's also false but not created with the intent to harm. So again, ang difference ng dalawa ay intent. Disinformation is intentional, misinformation is not. Okay. So this pandemic alone, there have been over 9,000 fact checks produced about COVID-19 already. And this is only from about 100 fact checkers all over the world, VERA files included. So itong fact checks, itong data visualization that you see in front of you right now, it's a visualization of the fact checks produced by fact checkers from different countries who are part of the Coronavirus Facts Alliance, which is led by the International Fact-Checking Network. So in this illustration, you will see all types of mis and disinformation that have sprung up related to COVID-19. I hope you can see it in your screens, but if not, I'll give a few examples. So this one is about hospitals. The green ones is about prevention, cures. The blue-green is about spread. But if you look at the red circle at the bottom right corner, you will see that it's about governments. So you will see that there has been a lot of misinformation and disinformation involving governments. But again, if you look at the bigger picture, there has been a whole forest of disinformation ranging from transmission of COVID, cures, vaccines, and even conspiracy theories. And a lot of this, so this is a mix of falsehoods or misinformation spread by actual people or actual public figures, but it also contains a lot of disinformation that circulated on social media platforms and even private messaging applications. So instead of being part of this problem, of contributing to the confusion of an infodemic, let's try to mitigate it. Let's try to become part of the solution. So now I'll be giving you today a short course on the two types of verification that we do at VERA Files. One is that we fact check statements made by public figures, and the other is verifying content that you see online. So first, let's look at public figures. And now, magpapa-pop quiz muna ako. So for everybody on listening to our Facebook live video, please comment your answers. If whether or not the statement that you see is on the screen is true or false. Para naman po doon sa mga nasa Google Meet call natin, let's try to answer them. I'll take the cue from you. Okay, so item number 1. In a September 1 Senate inquiry on the state of the dairy industry, Senator Cynthia Villar, who chairs the Committee on Agriculture, Food, and Agrarian Reform, said this. So sa Israel, she said, sa Israel wala silang lupa, disyerto sila. Kaya ihinahang nila yung kanilang mga plants sa air. Wala silang tubig kasi ang tubig lang nila ay nanggagaling sa ocean, salty, dinedesalinate nila. Yet they are net exporter of vegetable in the Middle East. Okay, I will give everybody 3 seconds or 3 to 5 seconds. Isa-swipe ko lang po ang aking screen para makita if may answer po sa ating chat box. Okay po, sorry po kung hindi clear. Is this, what did the senator say something that is true or false? Ang pinaka-titingnan natin dito ay sa Israel, wala silang lupa, disyerto sila. Yes. So, is it true or false? False. May mga cities doon. False. Okay, we have 2 false answers. False ulit. We have 3 false answers now. Okay? So, this was actually verified by VERA files last month in September. And tama po ang mga sagot natin. It's false. So VERA files looked at and in fact, she made 2 wrong claims. According to the land use map of the Israel government, the country has plantations, fields, forests, and woodlands, and not just deserts. So mali na po yung first statement. So sa Israel, wala silang lupa, deserto sila. And also, the last statement, yet they are a net exporter of vegetables in the Middle East. So the VERA files team looked at records from the World Bank, and we found that Israel is not a net exporter of vegetables in the Middle East. Okay po. So, item number 2. So this one, President Rodrigo Duterte made this statement in a public address on August 25. So during that address, he assured Filipinos that the government is doing everything to address the health crisis. And then he said, hintayin na lang natin iyong bakuna, mayroong medisina galing Japan, pati itong remdesivir, pati Avigan. Ito iyong salagnat, hindi ito iyong gamot. Ang gamot iyong vaccine. Ang vaccine ay gawa sa katawan ng tao. Now, is this whole statement true, or do we find anything in the statement that is false? Ayan, false po, sabi ni Mr. Percy. Okay po. Sige. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Meron po bubang sagot. Okay. So, ang sagot ko dito ay, this is also a false claim. So, we focused on the claim where the president said, ang vaccine ay gawa sa katawan ng tao. And this is a claim that the president has previously made. Actually, the fact is that a vaccine is a product that contains a killed or a weakened version or part of a bacteria or virus that causes a particular disease. Although vaccines are not made from the human body, again, it's made from parts, or it's a version of a bacteria or a virus, people or humans still play a role in their development, particularly in clinical trials, because doon natin tinatest yung safety and efficacy, dosage ng isang vaccine. Okay, I think, yeah, this is the last item po. So this one was made by presidential spokesperson Harry Roque. So in an interview on CNN Philippines about 1 month ago, spokesperson Roque was asked for his reason giving the government an 85% rating in responding to the pandemic. He talked about being clustered together with other countries in the region, and this was part of his response. Isipin na lang po natin, marami nang namatay, pero mas marami pa pong dapat namatay. Iyong ikinatatakot natin na sangkatutak ang mamamatay dahil sa pandemya, hindi po nangyari, dahil tayo po iyong kauna-unahang nag-lockdown. So again, is this whole statement true, or do you find anything in the statement that is false? Okay po. Wala pa po tayong sagot. I'll give 3 more seconds. So meron po bang false dito sa statement na ito, or is it fully true? Again, isipin na lang po natin, marami nang namatay, pero mas marami po pong dapat namatay. Iyong ikinatatakot natin na sangkatutak ang mamamatay dahil sa pandemya, hindi po nangyari dahil tayo po iyong kauna-unahang nag-lockdown. False. So 1% answered true, 1% answered false. Higher probability na mas malapit sa China ang mauunang mag-lockdown. Okay. So, the answer to this is, well, mukhang maraming may mga pagkakaiba na ngayon sa sagot. Okay. But the answer to this is false. So, in the region, in Southeast Asia, Vietnam was the first country to close its borders on January 23. President Duterte or the Philippines declared a travel ban on all visitors from Hubei province only on January 31, when it was already on lockdown for a week. So sarado na yung Hubei nun, or Hubei. And the lockdown or the travel ban was expanded on February 2 to cover the whole of China. So, maraming salamat po sa pag-participate sa ating pop quiz. Okay. May question po. In the first statement, what was the basis? It can't be fully true since it is based on opinion. Okay po. Actually, maidi-discuss natin yan doon sa discussion today. So if it's an opinion, we don't actually fact check an opinion, because at VERA Files we have this a 3-point criteria before that we ask ourselves and we ask the team before fact checking any statement. First, is it a statement of fact? Second, is it relevant? Third, is it verifiable or feasible? Ito actually, hindi ako dapat mag-expound on this today because this is something that we will discuss in the next video on Pramis, Walang Lokohan, which will come out next month. But since may question tayo about opinion, so pasok ko yan dito sa first statement that we ask ourselves, is it a statement of fact? Because at VERA Files, we don't fact check opinion. So kung babalikan natin yung statement, we focus on the part of the statement that is that misleads or that is presented as a fact, which is tayo po iyong kauna-unahang nag-lockdown. That is the claim that we looked into. Ayun po. Yeah, is it relevant? Is it verifiable or feasible? By relevant, public interest ba yung statement na yun? And yung verifiable or feasible, do we have documents or do we have interviews that we can conduct to give context to the claim or to debunk the claim? Okay. So, but again, yun nga, we will expound on that in our video next month. Instead, let's move on to the fact-checking process. We actually hold whole seminars teaching students, like the people listening to this call, civil society organizations, local reporters, how to fact-check, how to do the fact-checking of statements made by public figures. But for today I'm giving you two main tips. So the first is that when you're verifying a statement from a public figure, you have to make sure that the statement you're looking into is first-hand. As messages get passed along, they can change meaning. I mean, think about the game, yung game na pass the message. Diba, oftentimes when we play it, iba na iba yung message sa simula and yung makakarating doon sa tao sa huli at the end of the line, ibang-iba yung kanyang narinig. So you don't want to be fact-checking something that is hearsay. You have to get the video or audio that is official and compare it with transcripts if available. However, if that's not available, what you can do is you can triangulate news reports because sometimes yun nga walang hindi pwedeng i-record, hindi pwedeng i-video. However, that government proceedings are recorded by journalists. So you can you should look for 3 news reports that say the same thing or that quote the same thing. Okay, so for example, in this fact check of spokesperson Roque, if you will notice under his name, you will see the date, September 16, 2020. There's an underline. That's because we hyperlink the video, audio, or transcript of where the public figure said his statement. Also, we put quotation marks for a reason. We're attributing the statement to the person, so kailangan accurate talaga tayo doon sa pag-quote sa kanila. And the second tip naman is when you're doing fact-checking, always strive to use primary sources as evidence. You should go directly to the source. So one thing you can keep in mind is assume nothing is true and go directly to the source. So what are primary sources? Primary sources is direct evidence of an event or topic, such as a historical and legal document, audio and video recordings, speeches, and interviews. But remember, even documents lie. So make sure to corroborate it with other forms of evidences, such as interviews. And ano pa ba? Ano yung iba-ibang types of primary sources? So again, they can be speeches, press conferences, interviews, they can be press releases, court records, laws, government records, statistics, academic journals. We also use that as a source, scientific journals, medical journals, official government websites. So it's important that you know what are the official government websites. Just for everybody to keep in mind, ang official government website has the end URL of gov.ph. And also official social media accounts of public figures. So you can use that as a source, yung social media account ng public figure. Okay. So do we just look for falsehoods when we're fact-checking? The answer is no. Fact-checking can constitute a lot of things. For us at VERA Files, these are the 4 main types of things that we work on as fact-checkers. So first is that we look at false claims. So this is any remark of a public official or public figure that contradicts official documents, statistics, laws, or policies. So what's an example of that? I will play this video. Pwede sabihin niyo po sa akin if the audio does not work.
Ito, importante.
Can you hear the audio po?
Nagamitin mo siguro yan 2 beses, okay mo lang. O sprayhan mo lang ng alcohol, Lysol, if you can afford it.
Okay po, yes daw po. Sorry po. Ulitin ko lang po.
Ito, importante talaga. Wear it. Ginagamitin mo siguro yan 2 beses, okay mo lang. O sprayhan mo lang ng alcohol, Lysol, if you can afford it. Yung wala, ibabad mo ng gasolina o diesel. Utang, COVID na. Hindi uubra yan dyan.
In an earlier speech, the President made a similar recommendation
Sabi ko nga, kung ano lang, kamay-kamay lang, walang problema yan. Lagay ka lang ng drum dyan, puno ng gasolina. Lagay mo lang yung kamay mo dyan. Patay na yung...
Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque advised the media not to take his boss seriously.
Joke only. Kayo naman, 4 na taon sa presidente, parang hindi nyo pa kilala sa presidente. Bakit naman tayo maghuhugas ng gasolina? No?
But the president insisted he was not joking.
Akala ninyo nagbibiro lang ako. Hindi ako nagbibiro. Pag walang alcohol available, punta ka lang dyan sa gasoline station niya pagkatapos ng magpatulo. No? That's disinfectant.
Ayun po, okay. So again, as a recap, so last August, the president claimed that gasoline and diesel can be used as alternatives to alcohol to disinfect our hands. But no health authority has advised that, whether it be the DOH, World Health Organization, or the different Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. None of them advised to use gasoline or diesel as an alternative to alcohol. So yun yung false claims. Next are flip-flops. So flip-flops are a sudden change in stance or opinion on policies or backtracking on promises. So for example, on May 5, the National Telecommunications Commission served ABS-CBN a cease and desist order. So this is we fact-check this, and this is a 180-degree turn from a statement made 2 months earlier by NTC Commissioner Gamaliel Cordoba, when he said that the NTC will follow the DOJ, the Department of Justice's advice to allow ABS-CBN to operate beyond May 4 while its application for renewal remained pending on Congress. So this is one type of a flip-flop. So it's a backtracking on a promise, or it's a change in stance or opinion. It's a change in stance. So yun, the NTC backpedaled on what it said earlier. Next are fact sheets. So there are so many things that we need to keep up with. Ang daming nangyayari sa ating bansa, and sometimes you just want to read an article that gives us an idea what an issue is about. So this is a fact sheet. It's an enumeration of facts. It does not fact check, but expound on an issue that needs clarity. Okay, and one example of that is this story that we made last month. It's a fact sheet regarding the requesting of statements of assets, liabilities, and network from the Ombudsman. So last month, the Ombudsman released new guidelines for requesting this document, the SALN. Previously, you just needed to fill out a prescribed form and submit identification documents to request it. But under the new guidelines, only authorized persons and duly authorized representatives can do so. So here, we made a fact sheet on what would be the common questions that would come to mind regarding this new order. And lastly, the thing that we call, last is what a lot of people know as fake news, but we're actually moving away from that term. First, why? Because news is verifiable information shared in the public interest. So that's how a research fellow at Oxford University defined it or explained. News is verifiable information shared in the public interest. News is an accurate account of an event. And the term fake news, this term has been used to attack and discredit the media and to undermine legitimate critical reporting that holds those in power to account. So we want to move away from the term fake news, and instead, let's call it false news or disinformation or misinformation. But just to define it, we define false news as falsified information disguised as news spread through one or several platforms, including social media, to deliberately deceive the audience and advance political ideological, social, or economic interest. And often, this type of disinformation circulates on social media. So, papasok na tayo ngayon doon sa second type of fact-checking that VERA Files does, which is verifying online disinformation and social media verification. So, as an intro to that, we will do a pop quiz again ngayon. Titingnan ko po ulit ang ating okay. Titingnan ko ngayon ang ating chat ulit para sa mga magiging sagot. There are 4 questions, if I remember correctly, in this quiz. Okay. First question. Which among these was the first to implement a lockdown during the COVID-19 pandemic? Is it Vietnam? Is it Saudi Arabia? Is it letter A, Vietnam, letter B, Saudi Arabia, letter C, China, and letter D, Philippines? So again, which among these was the first to implement a lockdown during the COVID-19 pandemic? A, Vietnam, B, Saudi Arabia, C, China, D, Philippines. Kahit letters lang po. Or yung country if it's easier. A, okay. Lahat A, Vietnam. Okay. Actually po, ang sagot is China. By lockdown, we mean sinara yung borders doon sa area na yun. It was China. Specifically, Wuhan went on lockdown on January 23. So not the whole country, but Wuhan. Vietnam, it did its lockdown on a community called the Son Loy Commune on February 13. March 11, and then yung Saudi Arabia po, March 11, their governorate called Katif went on lockdown on March 11, and the Philippines began its community quarantine on March 12. I am not sure. It should have been the source itself. Yes. Okay po. And ililink ko po yung fact check later if I can po. But this was also fact checked by VERA Files po. Okay po, second question. Which has not circulated as a false prevention for COVID-19? Okay, so itong mga items na ito, supposedly, they can prevent COVID-19, but which did not circulate as one of those prevention mechanisms. A, vodka.
Nawala.
Sorry po, ayan po, nawala po.
It's okay.
Okay, present now. Entire screen. Okay po, nakikita na po ulit natin yung screen ngayon.
Yes.
Okay po. So again, A, vodka, B, boiled egg, C, cow urine, D, guano or bat poo. Okay, tingnan ko lang po ang chat. Most likely D, which is bat poo. Another person answered cow urine. Okay po. So, salamat po for your answers. The answer is guano or bat poo. So, while bats were suspected to be the source, which by the way, this remains unproven, there has been no claim circulating that guano can be used to prevent COVID-19. However, vodka and boiled eggs, these have circulated. And yung cow urine claim, which some of you guys answered, it actually circulated in India. Okay. Next, Is Canada now COVID-free? Dalawa lang po ang choice natin. A, yes, or B, no. No. Meron din tayong no question mark. Okay po. Ayan. So the answer po is no. But you would be surprised that this information has been circulated by a lot of people. For example, last March. But even this month, we saw this exact same status update circulating on social media that Canada is COVID-free. But I checked, and as of today, the Canadian government tallied 189,387 total cases of COVID-19 as of October 14. Their active cases are a little over 20,000. But again, we fact-checked this in March, and the same status update circulated again this October. And you will see in the shares, merong 2K shares, merong 1.5K shares, and there was even one post was shared 32,000 times. But this could have easily been debunked if, a person just Googled statistics or Googled Canada and COVID figures. Okay. So this is the last photo. Last item of the quiz. But I think actually hunch na lang to for you because this would involve actual fact checking. But the question is, was this photo taken in Italy? So this claim circulated in March, if I'm not mistaken, or April. And it seems like it's a Facebook My Day story. And the claim and the caption in it is that in case you're still not convinced to stay home for you and your beloved ones, here's a picture from Italy. And then several rows of coffins are shown. So was this photo taken in Italy? Yeah, if you could also remember, Italy had a big surge had one of the highest numbers of COVID cases during the start of the pandemic, apart from China. Okay, so, ayan. Somebody said, I hope we could see the data too. Okay po. Actually, we can Google it right now. Canada COVID-free. Yeah, so here is the resource, canada.ca. So this is the official website of Canada. And you will see here the data. So 189,387 cases. Ayun po. But again, going back to the, wow, may mabilis natin mag-fact check. So a lot of people answered no. One person answered, it seems yes, but a lot of people answered no. But the answer really is yes. This was taken in Italy, but it was not taken during the pandemic. It was actually taken in 2013. So definitely, itong conference na to has nothing to do with the pandemic. But we'll find more about that later. Okay, so maraming salamat po sa pagsagot again sa ating short quiz. Okay. So, we talked about falsehoods kanina and other types of, and also mis and disinformation. So, you know what's the danger right now with the things that we see on social media? We're not just dealing with complete falsehoods or fabrications anymore. So, yung mga things that we see on social media, hindi na siya yung 100% fake yan or 100% false yan. Many times, the more problematic posts have a grain of truth in them, which makes it more believable. For example, yung coffin photo that I showed you, it was taken in Italy, but not this year, not during the pandemic. And there are many different types of mis and disinformation. And First Draft, which is a non-profit organization in the UK, has actually identified several types. So for example, satire or parody. So technically, this isn't disinformation, but it has the potential to fool people. So for example, if this post by the Adobo Chronicles, which by the way is a satirical website. They had a story recently, I think this week. So mainit ngayon sa usapan yung 13th month pay. And they made this post in lieu of the 13th month pay, workers to receive 9 months extra pay. Wow. So if you are not able to identify what satire is, you might be sharing this in social media and think that this is true. But you have to be observant. Okay. Next, false connection. So this was one of the first items related to COVID-19 that we fact-checked this year. So if you can read the headline, it said, coronavirus, nasa Pilipinas na. Mag-ingat sa kumakalat na virus at alamin kung anong dapat gawin. So false connection means when headlines, visuals, or captions don't support the content. So basically, itong post na to, nagpaka-clickbait siya. Sinabi niyang coronavirus nasa Pilipinas siya. But when you actually watch the content, the publisher, this ka-business YouTube channel, said that this is a claim circulating on social media. And currently, itong dinebunk ng Malacanang and DOH. So, yung content niya, dinedebunk niya yung claim na ang COVID ay nasa Pilipinas na. So, this was January 24. But yung headline, because maybe it wants to rake in more views, ang ginawa niyang headline ay coronavirus, nasa Pilipinas na. So, yeah, and yeah, at the time that we fact-checked this, it had 14,700 views. What's another type of misinformation or disinformation? So it's misleading content. So misleading, this is the misleading use of information to frame an issue or an individual. For example, this post, it claimed na sa halagang 3,150 pesos, your life will be saved from COVID-19 by just using a low-cost steroid called dexamethasone. So again, sabi pa dun sa caption sa Facebook, hindi na natin kailangan mamatay sa COVID-19. So this is misleading because what the research actually showed and inexplain ng article doon sa medyo baba ng kanyang story, yung dexamethasone, it was only effective, it cut COVID-19 deaths by 1/3 doon sa mga patients na ventilated already. And by 1/8 doon sa patients na nangangailangan ng oxygen. So itong mga patients na to, ito yung critical na yung condition or yung mabigat na yung case ng COVID nila that they needed ventilation or oxygen. But may caveat, there was no observed benefit on patients who did not require respiratory support. So yung mga mild cases, there's no evidence na, there was no observed benefit itong dexamethasone. So it's misleading. Next, imposter content. So ito, very popular siya ngayong panahon ng pandemic, but even before the pandemic, this is actually one of the most popular pieces of content that we fact-checked last year. So imposter content, this does not only dupe people into thinking that these personalities, Queen Elizabeth, LeBron James, Vice President Robredo, made the statements, but also ginagaya niya din yung format ng mga news organizations, legitimate news organizations like Inquirer, GMA, News and Public Affairs, and News 5. So this is what happens when genuine sources are impersonated. Next is manipulated content. So this is when genuine information or imagery is manipulated to deceive. So this was This infographic, the original one, was produced by Nueva Ecija TV48, which is a legitimate news organization. And they made an infographic, a PSA, a public service announcement about the extension of the community quarantine of the ECQ until May 15. And then a few days later, lumabas itong bagong graphic, which basically photoshopped itong original graphic ng TV48. It carried the same logo, it carried the same locations, but you will notice, nag-iba yung date bigla. It's June 15, 2020. And this caused worry for a lot of people, especially, since for the ECQ, there's no transportation, many people lost jobs, and, itong pag-extend kuno ng quarantine, this just contributed to more confusion. Next, fabricated content. So ito very straightforward. It's new content that is 100% false. It's designed to deceive and do harm. So, for example, this memo circulated around the world last March, and it even reached the Philippines. So, if you can see the caption, in Filipino na yung caption. So, in this memo, a hospital in the United States supposedly advised that consuming alcoholic beverages reduces the risk of infection with COVID-19. It even pointed out that vodka is the most apt beverage that you can use for drinking, cleaning, and sanitizing. But no health institution, maybe the Department of Health, the U.S. Centers of Disease Prevention and Control, or the World Health Organization, has recommended to use alcoholic beverages or even vodka as a preventive measure against COVID-19. So dito, they probably manipulated an existing memo, or they went to the lengths of taking the logo of the hospital and the signature and the stamp of one of the authority figures in this hospital. So even itong hospital na to, they had to issue an advisory on its official Facebook page that drinking alcohol, that reports na naglabas raw sila ng memo nito, they had to issue an advisory saying this is not true. And then they reminded the public to practice proper hand washing techniques and respiratory hygiene, which are the recommended preventive measures against COVID. And lastly, when I said some of the most problematic types of disinfo has a grain of truth to them, dito pumapasok yun. I mean, some of those pumapasok rin dito. So this is when genuine content is shared with the false contextual information. So I'm borrowing this next two slides from a presentation I made last June about COVID-related mis and disinformation. So these are some visuals that also circulated worldwide. But pero may mga kababayan tayo na nilocalize sila at ginawang Filipino yung text. Post number 1 supposedly shows the animal market in Wuhan, which many of us would be familiar with, was suspected to be the source of SARS-CoV-2. The second post is a visual aid that claims Italy has run out of doctors. And post number 3 is a video showing people lying on the ground and running for their lives. The claim, there's an insect attack that is worse than the scourge of the COVID-19 pandemic. Kapag nakagat ka raw ng insect na yon, mamamatay ka kaagad. All of this, finact-check ng VERA files, and they're all false and misleading. So yung number 1, yung video, it was not shot in Wuhan, but it was shot in a market in Indonesia. And it was uploaded as early as July 2019. So definitely before the pandemic started. Post number 2, yung claim na Italy, wala na raw doktor. the photo with people lying on the ground is actually a 2014 photo from Reuters of an art installation in Germany in remembrance of victims of the Holocaust. And post number 3, which is yung claim about deadly insect daw. So, may 4 na clips sila na ginamit, and 3 of those clips show victims of a poisonous gas leak in Indonesia in India, last May. And 1 clip has no proof showing an insect attack. So yan. And those were not the only pieces of disinformation that circulated ngayong time ng pandemya. And kami at VERA Files, we have a whole microsite full of debunked mis and disinformation related to COVID-19. And you can find it at our website at COVID Watch. But let's look into why do people fall for falsehoods? I mean, some of them very obvious that it's false, but many of them, you can't really outrightly say that it is false. You would have to do some research. Okay, so earlier we talked about the infodemic, right? So to recap, ano ba ulit yung infodemic? So infodemic is an overabundance of information online and offline, which may or may not be true. And there are many reasons why people fall for falsehoods and misinformation. And one of these reasons was cited in this 2016 article from the New York Times. So papasok dito yung infodemic where may overabundance ng information. So ang sabi, when confronted with diverse information choices, people rarely act like rational, civic-minded automatons. Instead, kapag marami tayong information choices, we are stirred up or roiled by preconceptions and biases. So things that we believe in, or things na sang-ayon sa the way that we think, yun yung nangunguna sa atin when we see information. And we usually do what feels easiest. So ang gagawin natin, we accept and share information that confirms our ideas, and we shun those that do not. So, ano ba yung pwede nating gawin to prevent this, or to not be part of the problem, to not spread more disinformation on social media, or misinform others? Kasi even us, pwede rin tayong hindi naman natin intention mag-share ng false information. It's just that we didn't know that it was disinformation. So what can you do? So there are 3 things. I-summarize ko na lang sila in 3 things. Read beyond the headline, be observant, check your emotions and biases, and fact check. So first, read beyond the headline, be observant. So if a provocative headline drew your attention, read a little further before you pass along the shocking information. Kasi even in legitimate news stories, the headline doesn't always tell the whole story. But yung disinformation, minsan doon pa lang sa headline nila, marami ng mali. But sometimes, ginagaya nila yung legitimate news organization, so mukhang totoo yung headline, but when you look at the content, maraming signs that it's disinformation or that it's fishy. Also, why should you read beyond the headline? Because these people or these organizations that make false information or disinformation, their bet is that most people won't actually take the step of clicking through. So, mabasa mo lang yung headline, i-share mo na agad if napukaw yung attention mo or yung damdamin mo. So, one tip regarding headlines, beware of headlines na sumisigaw or yung shouting in all caps, naka-bold font. For example, this one circulated in April. So, Hindi siya, President Duterte, babawiin ang lockdown. It's, President Duterte, babawiin ang lockdown. So talagang all caps siya. At sinisigawan ka niya na babawiin na daw ang lockdown dahil may gamot na. Health Secretary Roque mag-goodbye na. So ang daming claims nitong post na to. Yung photo used as a thumbnail, may emotion na talagang nakakapukaw ng attention. And if you're not gonna watch this video, I mean, it's a YouTube video, pero sang-ayon ka doon sa sinasabi nung headline, you will probably just share this without even watching it. But again, one tip, beware of headlines that are shouting at you or are in all caps. Next, look out for wrong spelling, capitalization, and grammar. So this one is from the Adobo Chronicles. If you open their website on your desktop, you will see that their headlines are actually all in all caps. But if you open it on your cell phone, like what I did here, you will see na ganito yung itsura ng headline. And what do you notice in this headline? Diba? Hindi tama yung capitalization ng MMDA, yung S sa arrests biglang naging capital. So look out for wrong spelling, capitalization, and grammar. Because if it's a legitimate organization, it's a legitimate news organization, ang content na nilalabas ng news organizations, it goes through several layers of fact-checking and editing. So dapat hindi ito nakalampas. Especially it's a headline. And sisiguraduhin yan ng journalist and ng editor na tama ang spelling, capitalization, and grammar. Next, related dun sa sinabi ko kanina na pasigaw, check your emotions and biases. So meron tayong tinatawag na confirmation bias, which is, ang nangyari dito, if you see something that confirms something that you already believe in, ang tendency mo, isi-share mo agad yan. Kasi na-confirm yung pinaniniwalaan mo na-validate ka without even verifying it. So, isang tip dito ng factcheck.org, the next time you're automatically appalled at some Facebook post concerning, say, a politician, you oppose, take a moment to check it out. And we always say assumption is the mother of all screw-ups. If you assume something is true based on your emotions, based on your biases, pwede kang magkamali. For example, again, yung tip dito is don't let your emotions drive you. Think, is the post making you angry, happy, sad, relieved, or does it even make you want to buy something? So check it first before sharing. And again, this applies to everything that you read, even if it's from somebody that you trust or idolize. Lalo na if it's someone or something that you idolize, it doesn't hurt to do an extra click or to verify via Google. So if, for example, fan ka ng Kadenang Ginto at part ka nitong Kadenang Ginto Facebook page. And then dito, nakita namin na kumakalat yung post na namatay na yung actress na si Shaina Magdayaw. And for example, dito ka sa Facebook page na to, kumukuha ng showbiz balita, showbiz news. And this is something that made you sad. Very likely, pwedeng ma-drive ka ng emotion mo na dahil nalungkot ka or nagalit ka, shinare mo itong story without checking agad, without clicking on the link, or verifying via a Google search if namatay na nga ba itong actress na ito. And by the way, that is not true, that post was not true. Next, fan ka ni Justin Bieber. And ito, kumalat ito noong 2019, nung nasusunog yung Amazon rainforests. So, may post na kumalat, Justin Bieber send free private plane with 80,000 liters of water for the Amazon. So may picture ni Justin Bieber, may tatlong photos na nagpapakita ng aircraft na nagsasabay ng tubig over a burning forest. So if you're a fan, if you're biased kay Justin Bieber, you're a big fan, you're a believer, and you believe that he does good things, you might think na, oh, how nice of him, let me share this post. And you will see in the interactions, it was shared 1,100 times. And and yung reactions niya are heart react, like, and wow react. But actually, if you took the time to do a reverse image search, you will find na itong photos na to, hindi ito nangyari noong Amazon fires, and hindi rin siya pinadala ni Justin Bieber. So these photos are from 2009 and 2017 in Spain and Portugal. So nung nangyari yung may forest fire na nangyari doon sa countries na yun. Yeah. Oops. Next. What else? And then, for example, this post, which circulated in February. So the headline is Coronavirus. China seeks for court's approval to kill over 20,000 patients. So if you read this, hindi ba pwede kang ma-outrage? Napapatayin ang 20,000 patients. Yeah. So what can you do? You can just click on another tab on your browser and look it up. If China really sought a court's approval to kill these patients, or meron bang legitimate news organizations that carry this story? And also, if you click on the story, you need to look for the source of yung report na to. Sino yung source nitong website na to? And one more tip is that if you opened a new tab, you tried to look for information, it's always best to consult multiple sources of information to get information from multiple viewpoints. But remember what I said earlier about sourcing. Your goal is to consult the primary sources. And if hindi mahanap yung primary source, ang goal mo is to triangulate them. There should be at least 3 news reports. Yeah. And lastly, so again, the tips are to read beyond the headline, be observant, check your emotions and biases. And lastly, fact check. So you have to check the sources, you have to do a bit of online research, you have to do reverse image searching at times when you're dealing with a post that is visual, or photo heavy, video heavy. Fact checking has a lot of components, and yung reminder ko rito is that you will need a lot of patience, not patience, sorry. Because sometimes it would take time until you find the right source or the fact that you're looking for. And dito pumapasok yung video tutorial series namin na Pramis Walang Lokohan, kasi dito namin hihimayin yung different ways for you to fact check and to verify information. So kung ano yung what I stated here, looking into FB pages, FB groups, that was what we discussed in the video that was shown to you earlier. One of these months, in December, we will show you how to verify websites. And then we'll also teach you how to do online researching, and then also reverse image searching. Yeah. So, may time pa po ba tayo? I think I have 5 more
Miss
minutes.
Chin, meron pa.
Okay.
You're supposed to end at 3:30.
Okay po,
Yes.
so 5 minutes pa.
Okay.
Okay, para mapahapyawan kayo how we do this fact checking. So I'm not sure if lahat tayo familiar with the term reverse image searching, but basically, a lot of us know how to Google by typing in words. But you can also actually do a research or go into your browser and search via a photo. So, hindi ka magta-type ng word, mag-upload ka ng photo or maglalagay ka ng link sa isang photo para mag-Google mo yun. So, yun yung i-demonstrate ko sa inyo dito. And pwede nyo akong sabayan, actually. So, again, ayun ulit, patience. Because it might take you a while to find, ayun nga, yung main source, the primary source that you're looking for. So, if your phone can scan, you can open your camera app and scan this QR code. Ang gagawin nun, if you click yung lalabas na link, mapupunta kayo dito sa picture na to. Yung Italy photo from earlier. Yung coffin photo. Ayan. So, ano bang mangyayari? So, dito, dinemonstrate ko. So, for example, ako, skinan ko itong QR code na to. So, I tap the link, and then here. So, lumabas yung picture. Ayun, wala namang mangyayari sa phone nyo. You won't be installing anything. You'll just open this link. I'm not sure if anybody was able to do it, but I'll give you maybe 3, 2, 1. Okay. So, here. So, for example, nakuha nyo na yung photo na yun. Sa reverse image searching, actually, magkakaroon pa kami ng isang video about this. Pero ito nga, again, pahapyaw lang ito. So, you got the photo. What's the next thing that you should do? You want to crop it. So, dito ang ginawa ko, kinrop ko yung photo doon lang sa picture na gusto kong hanapin. Ayoko hanapin yung caption. I just want to find where this photo is from. So, what I did, ayun na. So, screen grab ko siya. And then, I cropped it. So, screen grab, crop. Ayan. Okay. Next thing you should do is, you don't need to download any app. You just have to type in images.google.com. So, images.google.com. But you want to use the desktop version on your mobile phone. So, click desktop site. And then you will see, click desktop site. And then you will see itong camera icon doon sa search bar. Kasi if you're in the regular Google search, I mean the mobile version of the images.google.com, you won't see the camera button. So you need to go to desktop version. So here's the desktop version. You click on the camera button para lumabas itong options na to. So you can either paste the URL of the image that I sent you or upload an image. I'm choosing the upload an image option. So here it is. So choose file. I'm choosing this photo, the coffin photo. And then here. So instead of typing in a word, saying Italy, coffin, you can actually upload the photo. And ang ibabalik sa'yo na results ng Google ay lahat ng web pages that carry that exact same photo. So you're a step closer now to finding the actual source of this photo. So if you go through the results, you'll see that the first result is actually a fact check. So these trucks aren't carrying bodies of COVID-19 victims. Here you will also see several social media posts, several Twitter posts claiming na itong coffins na to carry dead bodies of those who died in Italy and that it was carried by military trucks. Also, isang pro tip dito, don't just stop sa first page ng Google. Kailangan magaling kayong mag-research or basically parang siyang stalking. You're looking for, or well, not stalking, which is could be bad. But basically, you have to be a good sleuth. And you need patience because you might have to look through several Google search results. To narrow down, pwede mo rin palitan yung text. So, nare-retain yung image, but you just change the text to Italy, coffins. Coffins. And see, ayan. So, you will now see visually similar images. So yeah, matagal-tagal siya. I mean, sometimes mabilis siya, sometimes matagal siya na research. But eventually, you will find the correct source. So, for us, nahanap namin yung photo ng coffin sa Getty Images, which is a provider of photos. And then you will see here, I mean, i-compare lang muna natin if this really is the photo that we're looking for. So here, ito yung Getty Images. Here yung image na we're trying to look for. Is it the same? It seems so. And then you have to look at the details. So Getty Images is a legitimate website. It's a legitimate photo provider. And it even puts, it even gives credit. Sinong kumuha ng photo? When was it taken? For which organization was it taken? So it's Agence France Presse. And the creation date is October 5, 2013. So again, as I mentioned earlier, this was taken 7 years ago. Definitely not during the pandemic. But you need context. So, bakit may coffins? So, pwede mong tingnan itong tags. So, it says Lampedusa, 2013 Lampedusa migrant boat sinking photos. So, that would involve you doing a bit more research after you found this photo. You have to find out ano ba tong Lampedusa event, which is actually ang nangyari dito is may boat full of migrants or refugees na nagsink off the coast of one of an area in Italy, and ito yung na-recover na bodies nila, which were put in coffins. So yun, and we produced a fact check about that last March. So yun, important that you fact check. Ayun. So I think I went about 3.5 minutes overboard. But here, you can learn more about VERA Files by visiting our social media channels and our website, which is factcheck.ph or verafiles.org. That's all. Thank you very much, and I hope you all learned a lot today.
Yes, very well. Maraming salamat, Celine. Kita, we're back. Okay, I failed to introduce myself. My name is Ariel Sabellino. I'm the Executive Director and Trustee of the Philippine Press Institute. In the Binipo program, I was like, everybody knows me. Nakalimutan ko na, sorry. But at this point, we'll be entertaining questions from the audience. I don't see any questions in the chat room. Pero you can actually, isa-isa lang. I can allow some of you to, to directly throw in your questions. Just unmute yourselves, okay? Okay, who wants to throw in the first question? Just unmute yourself, wag na sabay-sabay, okay? Sige. Okay, very interesting how VERA Files painstakingly goes through a lot of materials for fact-checking, diba? So I think everyone, not only journalists, but every citizen is really encouraged to be fact-checkers, not as sophisticated as the fact-checkers do, but I think in one way or the other, matututunan din ng publiko, yung simpleng tao pa paano mag-fact-check. Example, magbasa naman, di ba? We have a problem with leadership. Nobody reads anymore. Nobody reads the paper anymore. Pero pag nagbabasa ng clickbait, hanggang clickbait lang. Sabi nga ni Celine kanina, pag nagustuhan yan, pag medyo appealing sa emosyon, very attractive, sige, share ka agad. Or galit doon sa subject ng storya, sige, share ka agad. So I think the first step is really to read, go through the material, and then make sense for yourself kung paano. Questions from the audience, you can unmute yourself, so you can ask questions. Hello? Questions? Mr. Percy, I've been reading your comments in the chat room. You seem to have a lot of insights on fact-checking. Probably we can throw in some of your comments on this, so the others can also learn from what you said in the chat room. Hello?
May question si Percy, how do you prioritize fact-check submissions to VERA?
Ayun po. Thank you for your question, Percy. And thank you for actively participating din doon sa quizzes earlier. So, how do we prioritize? For example, speaking on the online disinformation side or the Facebook fact check team, we deal with a lot of disinformation. We see a lot of mis and disinformation every day. But we fact check based on the 3-point criteria that I discussed earlier, which is that is the statement is it a statement of fact, is it relevant, and is it feasible? But with online disinformation, we add another criteria, which is virality. Is it being shared by thousands of people or a lot of people? Or kung maliliit man yung interactions niya, for example, on Facebook, on social media, is it being published, uploaded by multiple people at a time? So meaning, malaki pa rin yung reach ng post na yon. So that's how we prioritize. But again, also, pumapasok rin yung question of relevance. Is it something relevant to fact check? Does it have anything to do with current events? Does it cause harm? Yung pag-ikot nitong information na to. And again, yung 3-point criteria na yun, pumapasok rin yun when we fact check public figures. Yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Okay, Celine and Tita, I have a question. Okay, on a daily basis, how many materials you fact check? For example, what's the amount of time you put into fact checking a period, the longest ever? Let's say, for example, if the material is really very controversial, it would take like how many days or a week, for example?
The more complex fact checks, for example, for us, doon rin po again sa online disinformation, the longest might take up to a week. And this happens when we have when we have multiple claims in one post.
Okay.
Other posts, they have more than 10 claims in a post. And we try to fact check each of these posts, lalo if we find that not all of them or majority of them mislead or are false. Sometimes naman po, for example, we have to fact check an album. Sometimes we have had to contact photographers to verify if the photo is theirs para so we find out if tama ba yung context ng photo nung sineshare siya ngayon. So that can also take time.
So okay, now VERA Files belongs to the Internet Fact Checking Network. I mean, talking about a worldwide thing there. Is there a requirement for VERA Files to say fact check X number of materials on a daily basis or a week?
Wala naman pong requirement doon sa weekly or monthly output po.
Okay. And any more questions, Tita, from maybe we can throw in also, we can entertain some questions. Those who are, shout out those who are watching us via live Facebook streaming. Should you have any questions, actually Care can pick some of those and throw them to me for questions to VERA Files. Okay, unmute yourselves. You can unmute yourself so that you can ask your questions directly to VERA Files. Okay.
Hi, good afternoon po.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Yes, Jolina po, journalism student from Cavite. I just want to ask Vera Files if you guys consider of occupying frequency or airwaves via TV or radio for debunked information for more audience coverage.
Wow, very interesting.
Thank you for your question. For that question.
Ay,
Ano po yun? Sorry.
okay, go.
Ayan po. So the question is, if may plan po ba kami na ilagay sa TV or radio yung fact checks po?
Opo.
Opo. Sa ngayon po, wala. But it's not, it depends rin po kay Ma'am Tita, kay Ma'am Ellen po, if that's something that we will be doing. But right now, yung dissemination ng fact checks by VERA is mainly online. But it can also be carried by other news organizations because some of the fact checks, it's syndicated po.
At saka matrabaho talaga, di ba? It takes a lot of time, effort, tsaka tao talaga to really do fact-checking. And speaking of that, Celine, Tita, what's your advice to, kasi you mentioned about UP Diliman students. Of course, I know Yvonne and some of those students who really made an effort to having their own fact-checking mechanism. I'm pretty sure a lot of students out there, academics, who are now inspired to do the same mechanism as their contribution. What would you advise to them to at least initial steps to having a fact-checking mechanism? Hindi naman kailangan grand or ambitious muna eh. At least as a start, paano?
Ma'am Tita, do you want to?
Tita? Sige, kasi you handle students. O, Tita.
Ay, tako, ano? Ano nga yung question? Sorry,
Paano? Kasi, di ba, sabi natin, pwede naman lahat, pwede mag-fact check, but not as grand or as ambitious or let's say, as hindi ka-complicated ba? Ginagawa ng mga talagang professional fact checkers. For students out there, you've handled students, well, a lot of times in the past, until now pa rin, ano yung advice mo sa kanila? Yung mga initial steps to do the same thing as what the others did in UP Diliman. Nagkaroon sila ng sariling initiative. I'm sure in other parts of the country, nagkaroon din ng initiatives on this. Pero for those who want to start their own fact-checking mechanism, what do they do?
Follow sa VERA Files.
Plugging, ano. Hindi, tama naman kasi initial steps, di ba? Oo.
Actually, when I was still in the academe, merong moves na to include fact-checking in the curriculum. Actually, sa The Manila Times College, in-input na namin siya as part of the curriculum talaga. Tapos, yung mga students kasi mga students kasi namin dati, first year pa lang sila, pinagko-cover na sila. So, natuturuan na rin sila on making sure that the facts that they get are accurate.
Accurate,
na rin sila. So, dapat maging maging mataas na rin yung consciousness lalo na sa journalism and mass comm students. Diba? It's yung number one na trabaho mo is communicate and making sure that the information that you communicate is accurate.
Correct.
Task mo is fact-checking.
Correct.
So, different mo talaga dito is Google at saka yung mga apps on how to and lalo na ngayon sa social media, napaka-useful talaga yung reverse search. Ang dami-dami kumakalat na sure na luma na yung as Chin presented earlier, tama yung picture, pero mali yung caption, mali yung context.
Correct.
So, mas mahirap yung ganun na tama yung information, pero mali yung context.
Correct.
It's really a very, very meticulous, trabaho. Ako, di ba, medyo marami na rin akong na-edit, pero iba yung pag-e-edit ng fact-checking stories. Tsaka mas mabigat yung trabaho kasi you have to make sure na tama ka kasi fact checker ka eh. How do you fact check a fact checker? So you try to make sure na accurate lahat nung inaano mo, nung ginagawa mo. And sa umpisa pa lang, sa pitching of stories pa lang, nagkakaroon na kami ng debate. So it's really a team effort. Minsan, tapos yung layers of editing, minsan 3 layers namin nakakalusot pa rin. So, yung sa amin sa VERA, very maganda yung yung team effort at saka yung process na nadatnan ko na ginagawa nila in fact checking. Mahirap kung isa lang pero kaya naman.
Okay, speaking of, I'm playing the devil's advocate. Speaking of difficulty, how much resources ang kailangan para makagawa ng, I'm talking about sustainability, in terms of professional fact-checking na. I mean, I'm going through that line kasi baka yung iba din na nagsimula na, tsaka very interested to take to the next level, ang nag-iisip din na, ay, naku, baka expensive and all, apart from the pawis at dugo. I'm not saying you should tell us the figures, pero, I mean, what does it take to really, sustain the operations?
Medyo hindi ako sa ganyang Pero actually, yung simple fact-checking lang for ordinary persons, libre lang. As long as you have the apps. At marami namang libre na apps. Like yung Google search, Google image search, yung TinEye, Yahoo search. Basta alam mo lang yung resources na kayo on how to fact check. Tama ba?
Yes po. Kasi yung fact-checking, pwede rin naman kung zero talaga yung cost niya. For example, you're a good citizen who just wants to give factual information. And yung tools po na ginagamit namin sa VERA files, halos lahat po sila are free. Sorry po, hindi lang siya na-cover doon sa talk earlier. But doon po sa workshops that we conduct, we teach the tools that we use. For example, yung na-mention na po ni Ms. Tita earlier, TinEye, which is also used for reverse image searching, or RevEye. These are all free. And yung Google reverse image search, you just need Google. You just need an internet connection for that.
All right, let's go back to accommodating some questions from the audience. Again, you can unmute yourself so you can ask your questions directly to VERA files. Any more questions out there?
May question ako.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Yung question ko yung tinanong ko. Di ba kapag may check kayo as false news, yung may natatag yung Facebook post or photo na gano'n, how does that happen? How does that happen? For example, sino yung naglalagay ng tag?
Okay. Thank you, Percy, for the question.
Sino na bukas?
Oh my God. Ayun. Okay po. So, the question ni Percy. Okay. So, again, ang VERA is a third-party fact-checking partner of Facebook. And what we do is, one, we monitor this information and then we write explanatory articles, which is basically yung fact-check article. And then we rate it on Facebook. So we have a tool that we use to rate stuff on Facebook. And then yun, if we rate something as false, its visibility is reduced. So yung distribution niya sa mga newsfeed, it's lowered. And if you're a repeat offender, you can lose your capability to advertise or made-demonetize yung page mo or FB group or what, or account pala. And yeah, but VERA files, we don't have the capability. We don't do the taking down of the posts or yung tulad yung sa coordinated inauthentic behavior. we don't block, we don't delete. Just that when we fact check something, lalabas yung label na yun. If it's partly false, mare-reduce din yung disinformation. Yeah, I can actually send a press release from Facebook ngayon explaining lang itong mga labels na to.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Okay, we say hi to Tita Ella that just saw her popped from the frame. Hi there. She's in Germany right now. She is the chairperson of or the president of VERA Files. We say hi to her. Okay, next question, please. Any comments from the other members in the audience? Okay.
Lizelle! Si Lizelle, ano?
Okay, Lizelle. Okay, Lizelle, unmute yourself.
Hello po, good afternoon po.
Good afternoon. Go ahead, please.
Ang question ko po is how to prevent the spread of misinformation and disinformation.
Okay po. How to prevent mis and disinformation. Basically, yung minention ko na 3 tips earlier, which is read beyond the headline. I mean, it starts with you. I mean, mis and disinformation is a big problem. That can be because people are not aware how to look for the right resources, or hindi sila techy enough or what. But yung pag-prevent, yung pag-mitigate dito sa problem na to, it can actually start with you. And be proactive. Like, for example, you see something that is false on social media. Don't just let it, don't just pass through it. If it's something that you can fact check, if it's something that you can look into, you can research about it, you can fact check it, and it doesn't, pwede namang hindi mo antagonizingly i-correct yung friend mo na aawayan mo siya sa FB post niya.
Yeah.
Pwede mo naman siyang i-message privately, which has happened to some of my colleagues at VERA Files. Minessage nila yung friends nila about a false post that is circulating on social media. You can do it that way para rin hindi feeling nung person na nag-share purveyor siya ng disinformation or inaaway mo siya. Yeah, so that's one of the ways that you can help stop the spread of mis and disinformation.
Thank you po.
Ako, halimbawa, yung sa family o friend, recently nga, may ako, journalism professor siya, nagsishare siya sa messenger ng mga false news. So I just look for, nagre-research ako, i-google mo lang, halimbawa, Harvard professor arrested, ganito, ganyan. Tapos may mga na doon findings na fact check na siya kasi lumang-luma na siya. So just provide the story or the link to the story. So para maging aware siya na ay mali pala yun. So hindi na niya i-share. Yun, ganon.
Yes.
Yeah, correct. Agree. Anything more from the audience? O kasi natatandaan ko din, okay, having said about all the efforts on fact-checking and also debunking false claims and fighting disinformation, misinformation, efforts in this have started from way back many years ago, many years back. Nag-improve ba tayo in terms of, let's say, the public reception on really being on the side of fact-checkers or journalists to really, just support factual information, or ang dami pa talaga nating gagawin kasi dumadami pa? Or do you see any improvement at all?
Ariel, I think medyo tumaas naman yung public awareness about information and misinformation.
Okay.
Pero kasi naging livelihood na kasi sa iba. Keeps on coming up, lalo na ngayon na mag-elect na ulit.
Yun, speaking of...
yung pinagkakakitaan So,
yeah.
mas mabilis mag-travel yung false news kaysa sa
Sa totoo. Sa totoo.
So, it's really a very difficult battle.
Oh yeah, I know. Okay, you mentioned about these incoming elections, malapit na, no, mga, hindi naman ilang tulog lang, pero for God's sakes, di ba, pinag-uusapan na. Ang tagal pa, pero pinag-uusapan na. So now, we're fearing that the same is going to happen, like, you know, the previous election, before the elections, and the misinformation, disinformation, at tataas pa. So do you see na it's going to be difficult pa rin difficult on the part of verifiers to do a lot of fact-checking as the elections near, at kailangan nyo ng manpower pa. What do you need in terms of the public, you know, public appreciation and support?
Actually, number one problem talaga is power. Kasi ilang piraso lang kami, Ariel, and the task is very huge. Lalo nga na mag-election. And itong COVID pandemic, grabe. Yung mga staff, yung mga researchers namin, wala nang day off, wala nang sinasanto na holiday, wala nang gabi. Because they're really working very hard. And dahil nga, siyempre, mahirap din kasing it requires a very special skill. May pero yung bang kailangan mo pang i-train, ikukunti na nga kaming tao, mawawala pa dun sa focus ng fact-checking.
Right.
Tapos, siguro kasi napakaswerte ng verifiers for having people like Chin na na-train na from university days. Under kasi sila ni Yvonne eh.
Correct.
So we have UP students na na-train na sila even before they graduated. Tapos may mga PUP students din kami na at saka yung kailangan kasi dito yung meticulous and talagang sabi nga ni Chintangay na a lot of patience.
Yeah.
Kasi hindi mo agad mahahanap kung ano yung hinahanap mo.
Correct. Okay, we mentioned earlier in the beginning of this program that this tutorial is part of a series that will be shown will be available also on YouTube. So after this is going to be a tutorial on what again? So our audience can watch it and be part of the forum, if there's going to be a forum on this again for another tutorial or the next tutorial of the series.
Sige. Every month. So ngayon, we're launching today yung red flags. So sa next, sa November 15, ilalabas verifiable or not. Tapos, si Chin mas kabisado yung
time frame.
Bali po yung verifiable or not. So doon yung mag-expound po tayo doon sa mention ko kanina na criteria. Whether do we fact check opinion? We do not fact check opinion. So it should answer, dapat yes yung answer doon sa is it a statement of fact, is it relevant, and is it feasible. So doon po mag-focus yung video na yun. Which statement can be fact checked? Kasi hindi naman po lahat ng statement can be fact checked.
Yeah. Okay, any more questions from the audience? Meron pa tayong, by my watch, we have still at least 2 minutes to wrap this up. Meron pa pong question. If not, you can go directly to the website of Verifiers for your inquiries. Diba? Pwede namang ganon. Meron pa po ba? Wala na.
Ay, may question dito.
Okay, please.
Ito yung from the academic standpoint na sa chat siya, how do students fact check data they gather online if it isn't viral?
Google. Halimbawa, meron kang, you come across something na hindi ka sigurado kung tama ba or mali. I-Google mo kung meron bang legitimate na nagkikarry, meron bang legitimate media na nagkikarry ng news. Back to basics, na checking the source. So you have to look for a legitimate source. Yun.
Yeah, I do the same thing din eh.
And to add po, since ngayong pandemic, a lot of the claims are medical or scientific. Isang pwede niyong maging friend is yung Google Scholar. Para makapag-search kayo ng legitimate scientific studies or academic journals, and pwede niyo rin marami kayo actually website na pwedeng i-visit. Just try to find out if it's credible or not. Pero marami po tayong journals, repositories.
Oo, at saka pag medical, di ba, merong World Health Organization,
Yes.
So, yung legitimate sources, ang titingnan mo, kung wala doon, so magduda ka na. Sabi nga ni, dun sa tutorial nga, di ba, na nandun yung red flags. Ano ba yung mga issues na pwede mong bantayan para, para mag-isip ka kung totoo ba to o hindi.
Yeah, that's true. Okay. Any more? Any more questions? Okay.
Hello po.
Isa lang.
Okay, we go to the final question. The last question. Okay.
Parang wala ibang tatanong. Ako na magtatanong. Ano yung reaction niya sa mga taong sinasabihan na kayo yung gumagawa ng fake news? Kasi nakikita ko pag may tinag kayo na false information, may mga magko-comment bigla, kayo daw yung gumagawa nun eh.
Yeah. Actually, hindi kami nag-engage sa mga comments like that. But, I mean, the fact-checking, how we do fact-checking, pwede siyang i-fact-check mismo ng nagbabasa. Kasi for example, sa online disinformation, hindi kami nagpo-provide ng link doon sa fina-fact-check kasi ayaw namin mag-spread palalo yung mis or disinformation. But what we do, nagsiscreen grab kami ng post. So, you can be certain na it's not something that is fabricated. And then, kapag it's a public figure that we are fact-checking, we provide the actual link to the video kung saan sinabi nung public figure na yun or transcript or audio recording. So, fact-checking, yung fact-check articles naman, the public, the readers can also fact-check them. We even provide our sources. We hyperlink to all our sources.
Yeah.
Oo, ang haba ng listahan ng sources, bukod doon sa naka-hyperlink na words doon sa story mismo, ang haba ng listahan ng sources doon sa baba ng stories ng VERA files.
Oo nga. Yeah, I noticed.
Still, hindi pa binabasa.
Correct. Yun nga eh. Di ba? Yun ang masaklap doon. The work you put into, a lot of work you put into it, tapos, you just dismiss some of the information there, yung links to verify sources, the veracity of the information. That's all the time we have today. That's a wrap. Maraming salamat po sa lahat sa inyo for joining us in the meeting room, and some of us are watching live Facebook, streaming. Maraming salamat din. We just hope that we can accommodate lots of your questions, but you can visit the website of VERA files for your further questions. Maraming salamat, Nickel Asia Corporation, for supporting another significant project of PPI. At maraming salamat sa ating kaibigan sa VERA files. Okay, salute sa VERA files. Tita Ellen, you're there in Germany. Very good project. Celine, fantastic presentation. Tita, of course, very insightful contribution to the discussion. Thanks everyone for joining us, and I hope to see you not just sa PPI project namin, online projects namin, para sa VERA files. But stay tuned for another, speaking significant discussion. Is going to be another roundtable. Monthly naman to sa PPI pa rin. October 21, the topic is going to be, makaka-relate kayo, about this online class or classes.
Wow!
Na successful ba siya? Ito naglilipanan na nakakatawa ng mga modules na ginawang memes. Anong ibig sabihin nito? What does this say about the reality of our online education now? Watch out, October 21, sorry. Now it's October 21. That's going to be in the morning. I'm going to post it in the PPI platform so you guys can watch it and also be part of the lively discussion in the meeting. Again, maraming salamat, VERA files. Maraming salamat.
Picture.
Okay, let's have Kier. Are you there? Again, Nickel Asia Corporation. I hope JB was here. But
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's have a class picture, everyone. Thanks again. Sir Percy, fantastic contribution to the discussion. Thank you. Okay, picture. Show your faces, please, on video. Please show your face on cam. Okay. Okay, show your faces, please. Okay, everyone, in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, smile.
Okay po. Okay, one last. 1, 2, 3. Okay
There
po.
you go. Maraming salamat, Kier. Tita, thank you very much. Celine, maraming salamat din. And to all fact checkers at VERA Files. VERA Files, mabuhay kayo. Salute. Let's join and support fact-checking mechanisms for everyone, for the society, for the Philippines. Thank you.
Ariel, and thank you, Pia, and thank you, everyone.
Yeah, keep safe and have a safe and good afternoon, everyone. Bye-bye. Bye.
Chin.
Ako si Celine.
At ako naman si Marinette.
Araw-araw sa VERA Files, ginagalugad namin ang social media para hanapin at itama ang kumakalat na mis at disinformation.
Sa 6 na buwan simula ngayon, maglalabas kami ng 6 na video para turuan kayo kung paano nyo rin ito magagawa gamit ang inyong cellphone o computer.
Mga red flags sa social media account o page ang una nating tututukan. Sa loob ng 2 araw, nakakuha ng 4,000 comments itong Facebook post na naglabas ng aplikasyon para sa may gusto ng perang ayuda mula sa gobyerno. Peke ito, walang opisyal na Facebook page na magkasama ang Department of Labor and Employment o DOLE at Department of Social Welfare and Development o DSWD. Sabi pa ng DSWD, hindi sila nanghihingi ng personal na impormasyon sa social media. Ginagamit ng mga impostor na account gaya nito ang kredibilidad o kasikatan ng isang tao o institusyon para mas madali tayong maniwala sa impormasyong mali o nakapanliligaw. Minsan, para rin magparami ng likes at makakuha ng personal na impormasyon. Para malaman kung lehitimo ang isang social media account o page, sundin ang mga hakbang na ito. Hanapin ang verified badge sa pangalan ng account. Patunay ito na ang nagpapatakbo ng page o account ay ang tao o institusyon na nakapangalan. Walang blue check ang impostor. Ang tunay na DSWD, mayroon. Pero hindi lahat ng lehitimong account ay may verified badge, gaya nitong sa DOLE. Paano ito ngayon mache-check? Magpunta sa About tab, na kadalasan naglalaman ng deskripsyon ng tao o organisasyon, official website, at contact information na pwedeng tawagan o i-message. Kung wala o kulang-kulang ito, magduda ka na. Sa official website rin madalas makikita ang link sa tunay na social media page. Ang tunay na social media page, tama ang spelling at capitalization. Tingnan din kung may mga dagdag na salita sa pangalan ng account na hindi dapat. Pagdating sa followers, nakadududa rin kung ang isang institusyon o sikat na tao ay iilan lang ang followers. Pero linawin natin, hindi automatic na kapag marami ang followers ng isang account, ay credible ito o dapat agad paniwalaan. Taktika ng panloloko ng mga account ang magpalike ng kanilang page. Tingnan rin ang page transparency tab sa Facebook para malaman kung kailan ginawa ang isang Facebook page. Kung ito ay bagong gawa, pero nakapangalan sa isang matagal nang naitatag na institusyon, magduda ka na. Dito nyo rin makikita kung nagpalit ito ng pangalan at layunin. Sa Facebook groups, makikita nyo ito sa group history ng About page. Maging mapagmatyag rin sa post mismo ng account o page. Minsan, ang mga litratong ginagamit ay kinuha mula sa ibang organisasyon gaya nito. Ngayong panahon ng pandemya, maging mas maingat sa mga post na nakikita sa social media. Maraming nagsasamantala sa pagkakataong ito kung kailan marami sa ating mga kababayan ang naghahanap ng impormasyon. Gamitin ang tutorial na ito para malaman kung lehitimo o hindi ang isang social media account. Samahan niyo kami sa susunod na buwan para alamin kung ano ang mga bagay na pwedeng i-fact check. Abangan yan dito sa Pramis. Walang Lokohan.